Paramitas of the Theravadan tradition, and then the six Paramitas of the Mahayana tradition. And there's only one that's in the 6 paramita list that's not in the 10, which is dhyana, which is the same as jhana, which is just Sanskrit for jhana, which just means, absorption state, concentration, etc. Okay, cool. So, all right, let me get my notes. Okay, so the 10 perfections. So these are spiritual faculties, spiritual virtues, and they're really helpful and healthy to reflect on and try to cultivate. And then, as usual, with any of this stuff, it's all aspirational. We're aspiring to these qualities. None of us, as far as I can tell, no being is a perfect exemplar of any of this. So it is highly, highly, highly perverse if you take any of these and use them to self-flagellate. That is not the point. Don't beat up on yourself with these qualities. These are things to move towards. We all fall short. There's that Christian phrase, we all fall short of the glory of God. All right, okay, so first one, dana, generosity, giving. Like this has the same etymological background as donation, or like donare, dar in Spanish. This is often how the path starts for people, and many people have access to this. Maybe even if many of these other qualities are not in line, most of us have a little bit of generosity. Anyway, so I was just going to also mention here that as you practice the paramitas this week, and that's going to be part of the assignment to hopefully actually memorize the 10 paramis, that'd be great. And then practice them, cultivate them. And then I think with dana, so of course, do your acts of generosity, your 6 acts of generosity a day. But I think it's interesting to really try to open up to receiving. So when you are on the receiving end of generosity, really open up to that and develop mudita for the person that's giving something to you, because they are benefiting tremendously from that. To do acts of generosity is like one of the most effective and salient antidepressants. Okay, good. Moving on. Sila. So this is, the 5, pancha sila, 5, what would it be, like, I don't know, ethical interdicts, possibly. And the way I think about it is they mostly break down into harmlessness and trustworthiness. So let me go through the list. So first, and you know what, why don't we just do this in quasi-meditation form? So we undertake the training to kill and harm as little as possible. We undertake the training to only take what is freely given. We undertake the training to avoid sexual misconduct. We undertake the training to avoid unwholesome speech like lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, gossip, and idle speech. We undertake the training to not take intoxicants that cloud the mind. Then I like to add on to this, not getting drunk on greed, hatred, and delusion. Okay, good. Those were the 5, panchasila. I'll just make a couple of comments. So I may have mentioned this already, but I like the phraseology of I undertake the training to kill and harm as little as possible. I think that way it's phrased is a reflection on the first noble truth, that that life is wrapped up in, mixed up with suffering. And there is no way to not kill or harm and be alive. Being alive and killing and harming go together. And it's tragic. And I think we're to look at that and open up to it and see it. And that brings about humility and compassion. Okay, good. Next one is only taking what is freely given. So that's, don't steal, but it's actually, I think, more intelligently construed because, for example, if you're taking somebody's time and it's kind of an imposition on them, that's taking what is not freely given, but it wouldn't be stealing. Or, just taking something that's maybe, you know, it's probably okay if you take it, but not asking for permission kind of thing. Um, that would be an example. Although, let me also just briefly say that this can be construed in a neurotic way, where you're bothering people all the time if you need to take something when you know it's given. So don't construe it that way. Okay, moving on to the third. Okay, sexual misconduct. So harmful sexuality. Okay, that's clear. Then the speech. I think we know about that. I mentioned in our first class, Ken McLeod's recommendations around um, listening to yourself. So practicing mindfulness when you speak, such a fantastic practice to like actually hear how you're coming across. And if you really pay attention and hear it, you'll catch if you're kind of, if your sila is off around your speech. Okay, great. All right, then, and then the not taking intoxicants. Okay, that's clear. And okay, so we'll leave it at that. All right, so a couple more things about this. So this is a gift. So good ethics is a gift to you and others. This is the minimal foundation for building epistemic trust. Okay, so like if you are trustworthy and harmless, it's easier to see, and you naturally kind of like it paints your world. The more harmless and the more trustworthy, the more harmless and more trustworthy the world becomes, and thereby the better your mental health becomes, and the more solid of a foundation and base you operate from. And here I just say, reiterate this point, how we behave conditions us and conditions the way we see the world. And we kind of see this non-dual insight there as well, don't we? And then again, and here I'm just reiterating, I think it's important to have compassion and understanding about our moral failings and the failings of others. This is not a justification to self-flagellate or flagellate others. And then I go on to say here, when there is deep insight, it is seen that we are not separate from cause and effect, and we are at the whims of conditions beyond our control. Only compassion and understanding can possibly make sense when we see how we're not in control. The same attitude of extreme clemency must be taken with ourselves around ethics. Again, control is kind of tricky. And the way I like to think about are we in control or not is there's no truth to being in control or not, but it's at times more skillful to look at it one way or the other. But this is just some phraseology I like. 100% responsibility, but zero control. So you are responsible for your ethics, but you also, should appreciate the conditioned nature of it all, and that should open you up and induce compassion. Okay. Okay, so moving on to nekama. Nekama is letting go, non-attachment, renunciation, living simply. So this is, I think there are obvious benefits here, but this is what will keep your life simple enough to where you can practice. Okay. Another note about this is nekama, kanti, and upeksha are very interrelated. Kanti means forbearance, tolerance. Upeksha means equanimity. They're all very related. And in my mind, they're all kind of rolled into kanti, which is forbearance and tolerance, in the Mahayana list of the Paramitas. That's kind of some nerdiness, not very important. Okay, next one, prajna or panya, wisdom. And then the way I'm defining it here is wisdom means no view, emptiness, the allowing for experience to turn into flow and seeing that. The insight into non-fixity, no thingness, the seeing of how things, how everything is open and flowing and uncoagulated process. This is wisdom. Okay, moving on to the next one, virya. Virya means effort, energy, heroism. this has the same etymological background as virility, and even like werewolf. Werewolf means man wolf, or like Wehrmacht in German is like man power. So Viria is just like kind of manliness, this heroism, just like pushing through and doing what it takes to get what you need to accomplish done. So okay, all right, and and persevere in your spiritual accomplishments. Okay, Kanti, forbearance, patience. I believe this comes from Ajahn Sumedho, but maybe Ajahn Jayasara. One of them says, Kanti is like a jackhammer through the defilement. In order to kind of transmute our defilements, which I'm not crazy about the word defilement because I think that kind of encourages like an aversion towards our flaws, which I don't think is helpful. But we want to have forbearance and a sweet, loving forbearance and tolerance with our problems, our defilements, and the defilements of others. That's how we transmute them. Y'all know that expression. I think it comes from 12-step. What we resist persists. Okay, good. So we see that here. All right, satya or satya, truthfulness, trustworthiness. So this is just, in my mind, reiterating the, what comes up for me is like a reiteration of the trustworthiness aspect of sila, ethics, etc. Aditana, strong determination of resolve. So just like, really persevering, focus, etc. The last two are metta and upekkha. So metta, loving kindness. And then the way I think about this is as an aspect to metta is that it reinforces the non-harming aspect of sila. Particularly, it is the ground upon which non-harming naturally grows. Right? So if you develop loving kindness, it's a foregone conclusion that you'll act in ways that are harmless towards others. So it's kind of like shooting for the moon or shooting for the clouds and you might hit the tree. So if you practice a lot of metta, definitely your ethics will improve. Okay, upekkha, upeksha in Sanskrit. Equanimity, peace, smiling impartiality. Shinzen defines equanimity as not pushing or pulling on your sensory experience, just accepting it. And then now, borrowing the last one, so this is the 11th from the Mahayana list of Paramitas, dhyana, so concentration, focus, absorption, etc. Okay, and then here I just say, when these qualities ripen, you become nothing, nothing fixed, nothing findable. You become vanishing. You are light and ease. Very good. Okay.